Hi, it's me again with Corel Draw Tips and Tricks, and somebody sent me this design, and I can't quite understand what they were talking about, but and they also said there were 12 layers, and if you look, there's 504 objects on this one layer. He actually mentioned layers, but there's a lot of objects, and there might be different layers, but I can't really see them. So he wants to cut it out, so I'm going to use the Smart Fill tool. And if you notice, I put a rectangle around. I'm going to hit the Smart Fill tool. So we've got at least 2 leaks. That's not a big deal. A leak could be as little as that right there. That one probably wouldn't leak, but more of a corner type leak, where 2 nodes just aren't touching yet. So that's not a good corner. In the old days, I used to take a rectangle or 2 lines, and I'd bring them in my drawing and try to stop the leak, and then grab the Smart Fill tool and fill it in. And you see, so my leak is in that line somewhere between those lines. So then you could just start moving your lines over and use the Smart Fill tool, and then you know that that leak is right there. I mean, it's got to be somewhere right in there. And you could look. I used to look for these and look for them, and there's no telling where it is. So what I've done lately that seems to work a lot better, I'm going to take this item. I'm going to move my rectangle for a second. And I'm going to try to grab it with the shape tool, and it won't do anything because it's not together. And there's individual lines here. He didn't do anything when he was building it. So I'm going to go to Object, and I'm going to combine it together. And then I'm going to go take my shape tool and look at all my nodes. And if we really looked around, we could find the nodes that's causing the problem. It could be as little as something right there. That line's not connected. So let's just put it back like it was. And we're going to select all the nodes. They turn color. Go up to Windows, Dockers, Join Curves. I actually had it open, so I had to shut it. Windows, Dockers, Join Curves. I've got mine set on 0.01. And what that does, it doesn't interfere with going somewhere else. And then let's bring our rectangle back in and use the Smart Fill tool. And we have no leaks. So it worked 100%. Now, he mentioned that he was going to cut this out, and that's all good and fine. You just really need to, and what the Smart Fill does for you, see all these lines are they're together, but they're not together. So what I would do is find out how big this object is. It's almost 35 inches tall. I would make my nudge factor 40. And I'd go with the Smart Fill tool, and I'd fill that in. Whoop, I missed. Missed again. And then I would nudge this over. Now, if you left click, right click, and make sure it's a hairline, which it is, this is what you want to cut out. I would just totally trash everything else, because these pieces are welded together, and you can't break them apart any way. You don't need to. But what I was going to talk to him about or tell him about, depending on what kind of wood, I mean, this is pretty thin. So that's about 3/8 of an inch. This is probably a quarter. And let's just take a look and see how wide it is. That's a little bit less than a quarter of an inch. That's going to be pretty fragile unless you cut out of it like a plywood. The plywood's stronger than regular solid wood because it's got plies. And this would be really tedious to sand if you're going to cut it out. A lot of people would use mass, but then by the time you try to get the mass off those little parts, So my suggestion, and I'm just going to throw this in, I have no clue if he's even going to sand it. You're going to have parts that look like that when they fall out of the laser. Take all those parts and use some blue tape and just tape everything down before you pick it up. And then turn it over and sand that side and then tape it again. And what that does, it keeps the, if you use like a random orbital sander, if you have these two pieces and you're trying to sand this piece, these three pieces are going to keep that from moving. I do it all the time. But anyway, I hope that helped them a little bit. Thank you for watching.